May 20th, 2024. Please rise. Start the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike, please take roll.
David Franz.
Present.
Mary Grabanowski.
Present.
Nick Plopper.
Present.
Josh Fedor.
Present.
Chris Lake.
Present.
Jim Hurst.
Present.
Cindy Madrick.
Present.
All present.
All present. All right. In your packet, there's a set of minutes from the April 15th, 2024 meeting. Is there any comments, additions, deletions on those minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? All right, minutes are passed. Next on the docket is a continuance request for docket number 2023-39DP, Stoller Roofing Office Building 5898 South 700 East, petition for development plan approval for the expansion of a parking area for a roofing business being in the rural single-family residential R1 district. Roger?
Sir, I had an opportunity to meet with the petitioner this morning, and they are requesting a continuance to the July 15th meeting. The reason for this is not a simple petition simply because we've got multiple jurisdictions involved, and they're going to need to secure some additional variances before the development plan is heard for you. So they're planning to file for the Zionsville variances at this next filing deadline, which will result in those BZA petitions being heard prior to the July Plan Commission hearing. So that's why we're requesting a 2-month continuance for this development plan petition.
All right, thank you. Does anybody on the Plan Commission have any questions, comments? If not, is there a motion to continue this to the July 15th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion is carried. Motion carries. That will be continued to July 15th. Next on the docket is 2024-21Z, Town of Zionsville South Village PUD. The area address the area is generally south of the Village Business District and incorporates the Creekside and Dow project areas. Rezoning of 169 plus minus acres from the Village Business District BBD, Urban General Business District B2, Rural Single and Two Family Residential R2, Dow Park PUD, and Creekside PUD to the Planned Unit Development District South Village PUD. Who's it?
Yep.
Jody?
That's fine. Yep, thanks. This is a PUD request for about 160 acres. You can, oh, sorry, I was looking straight ahead. I was like, oh, I don't see my map. I'm sorry. Encompasses the area here, bounded 116th Street. You can see along here, Creekside PUD. Zionsville Road, you can see Sycamore coming in, Oak Street coming through. So that's the boundary of the acreage in question. You can see that it has various zoning districts already established, including the Village Business District. There are PUDs in there, B2 and 3, some special use areas, and R2. The special use area is Lincoln Park. The intent is to craft, and there's the comprehensive plan. So you can see the project area in the comprehensive plan. And again, the comprehensive plan does call for a wide variety of uses within this same area. So the intent is to craft a set of development standards that will guide future development. This is a little unusual from some of the PUDs that you've seen in that it's not a project-specific PUD. It is an area PUD. We're going to craft some standards, and then as projects come in, we will match those against the standards, but there's no specific project associated with this right now. They are proposing a couple of sub-areas. So there's a mixed-use north, a mixed-use south, office park, and preservation with the various uses outlined within the PUD for those areas. The PUD continues to be refined as it moves along the development process. Staff would like the commissioners to come together on at least one item, and that is architecture. I'd note that in the PUD, they say the Zionsville theme rules Then other places, it's, well, we really want modern, colonial modern architecture to rule, to guide development. And then there are character exhibits that may or may not match either of those options text-wise. So I would just like a little bit of clear guidance from commissioners on what type of architecture they want to see where, so that as projects do come through, we have a little bit more of a firm guide on, yes, this meets the standards contained in the ordinance. The staff recommendation is for commissioners to hold the public hearing, get comments from the public, give the petitioner your comments, suggestions, and thoughts, and then depending on how many changes that you guys want to see, continue this item to a future meeting, 1 or 2 months in the future, just to give the petitioner enough time to respond to your comments and desires. With that, I will turn it over to the petitioner.
Petitioner present. Mayor, you can handle it.
Good evening, Plan Commission. Good evening to everybody in the room tonight. So as Jody mentioned, you have before you a PUD for the South Village area, a little bit north of 160 acres in size, located mostly south of Sycamore Street down to the old 106th, which ran alongside the Zionsville Cemetery. Now, as was mentioned, this is not a traditional PUD request. As in this case, the town is taking the lead. We hope to set parameters that landowners and development partners would have to follow before any projects could be approved. Now, the overall goal here is to help raise this area to its best and highest use by creating opportunity for development that includes mixed-use areas, commercial areas, and the opportunity for some residential growth. We believe the increase in economic activity is vital to the long-term fiscal health of the town, and in particular, the Brick Street Business District. Now, I've asked our Redevelopment Commission Director, Corey Sharp, and RDC Attorney Jeff Jacobs to talk you through some of the finer details of this proposal. But before I yield to them, I would like to request that no vote is taken on this proposed PUD tonight. The document is substantially finished, but we believe that more public input is needed as we finalize the language and other small details. We will have a completed PUD to you in ample time for your consideration at the Plan Commission scheduled meeting on June 17th. So all that being said, I would like to ask Corey and Jeff to take it from here.
Good evening, members of the Plan Commission. Thank you, Mayor Stair, Corey, making sure that this worked. My name is Jeff Jacob. I'm an attorney with Hackman Hewlett with offices here in Zionsville. I'm assisting the town with the South Village PUD, as you heard, and I'm acting as sort of special counsel to the RDC for that purpose. And as mentioned, Corey will do some of the heavy lifting as we get into the details tonight. But what we really wanted to do was get in front of you and get Plan Commission and public feedback. I know the mayor has conducted numerous open public meetings around the community, but really what this is a big rezoning in an area that has gone undeveloped for many, many years and is important direction for the town and the landowners that own the property. You know, I was thinking back to how many years ago the Citgo station was operating, and I couldn't exactly remember, which I think pays homage to how long and my age. But this vision is long overdue for this area. And as you're aware, this PUD has been in draft form for a number of months. I know you've seen it in many iterations. And we anticipate continuing those edits with hopeful feedback from you tonight. And as the mayor mentioned, we are not asking for a vote tonight. I know you had a continuance request, and I wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. That's not our request. We want to, as this document has been growing and evolving, we want you to take a bite at it for us to get back in front of you, hopefully in a month. So, as Jody mentioned, and the mayor, I want to highlight that this is a different rezoning process than many have seen before. Because it's town-led, different than developer-led, we're not going to see, and if you think of the Bradley Ridge project, you're not going to see written commitments. You're not going to see binding project design or binding project renderings. What you may see in the document are exemplars of, hey, we think that this fits. Those are not binding. And with a project that's town-led, what you're going to see is a vision or a concept of what the town, through feedback from a variety of different sources, for landowners in the South Village to follow. So as mentioned, this is not project specific, and you're not going to see those binding designs or renderings or layouts, for that matter, to guide you in your decision-making process. But what you will see through the text of the document are permitted uses in certain zones, excluded uses in certain zones, and then a guiding of that town's vision through development, design, requirements, and limitations. So one of the things I've been asked, and I've sat down and talked with a handful of people, why should the town be involved at this point? And I think we've seen an area that has struggled with an identity, and many may disagree with that. But the town, by stepping in, when you have so many unique property owners and valuable real estate, number of approximately 160 acres, that the applying unified development standards that are guided by the town will ultimately not only attract but control development in this very unique area of our town. So I would like to look at some specific areas within the PUD that really make up the spirit of this agreement. And the PUD has been divided into 4 distinct sub-areas. The first I'd like to talk about is the mixed-use north area. And that is really a continuation of Main Street, focusing with a heavy emphasis on retail and professional uses. You know, as some of the drafting of this document was going on, the comment came up, look, this can't just be a restaurant zone. And the intent of the mixed-use north area is to do more than just restaurants. It's to attract retail and professional uses. In order to do that, you've got to have some additional residential. And that area does include some residential, as it does today, as a matter of right. The goal with this residential area is to have active users of downtown, walkable users to a downtown Main Street district. A lot of this area is guided in the spirit of what the towns look into this area is in the permitted uses. And these are a variety of uses, very much a continuation from what we see in Main Street with expansion of residential, of course. So you will see, if you look specifically at a snapshot of just Main Street, we think of some modifications, but a continuation. The next area that I'd like to talk about is mixed-use south. Same concept as the MU North area, but a slightly higher intensity of use. And we believe that's reflective of the larger parcels that are still visible from Main Street, which require some special attention. So the goal with this area was to create a consistent design that links the corporate park, Creekside, to Main Street. And you will note many of the permitted uses from north are reflective of the south. We've added additional uses. The third zone is the office park or Creekside. Now, since Creekside was created, things have changed in our world, and we are moving away from the large corporate headquarter model, which was really what that area was intended to originally. And it has evolved into a more specialized commercial use area, entrepreneurial styled endeavors. So the thought was to adjust the ordinance to reflect exactly what's happening in that area and what we would like to see continue in and around Creekside. The last area is a preservation district. And, Zionsville is lucky. It has Eagle Creek that runs throughout many areas of Zionsville. And it's more than just a creek, and in that it has a mature tree canopy that follows it and makes this area very unique and is authentic to Zionsville, and deserves our attention and protection. The PUD document, the text, incorporates that special area, trying to protect it, but incorporate uses into it as well. So trying to pass through the spirit of what this document has in terms of permitted uses, the PUD has gone further and said, hey, for future governing bodies and boards, has attempted to come in and add some excluded uses that were realistic concepts that are specifically removed. This is more of an intent statement of this is not consistent with the vision of the PUD. So as mentioned, when we don't have a specific project or designs that we can point to and say, we're going to build this, which is not the town's role, we have, you can then look to, in this document, guidance as to the development standards. And one that I've heard is an important factor, and it's had a lot of discussion, is building height. And so what staff has done to attempt to stay within the character of Main Street, but allow more intense economic development, is create a variety of districts within South Village, allowing different heights. Now, when we're talking about heights, let's be clear on where our model came from. In residential, when we're talking ceiling to floor, you typically see about 9 feet with 1 foot of structure supporting that floor. So we have operated on a 10-foot average assumption of a height of a floor for residential purposes. For commercial, floor to floor you see, floor to ceiling you see about 12 feet with 2 foot of structure. So a 14-foot average assumption when we're converting floor to feet. Make sense? So when we're talking about this South Village different districts, we've got a variety of ranges from 14 to 35 feet, which exists today, up to 50 feet in up to 62 feet in some of the areas, with an area that I would like to highlight in yellow. So along Main Street, you have, in Zionsville Road, you have a 35-foot area that is a maximum height within 50 feet of the road right-of-way. So in other words, the goal is to allow for larger building height the further you get away from the road, creating this kind of effect. One of the next development standards that I think is worth talking about is parking and loading standards. And what has been done is just a usage of the Village Business District standards, the current parking standards, into this area. Now, there have been some modifications through shared parking uses. We've addressed some bicycle parking and the like, trying to tailor some of the parking standards to this area. But the comment from the drafters of this would be to hope that there would not be variances granted for parking standards. So this area is not solving parking on Main Street, but operating within the bounds of this district. And the goal with many of these uses is to have a park and walk type active user of Main Street in the Zionsville Business District. So as this is a rezoning, there are some statutory criteria that we need to go through that I'd like to talk about briefly. Anytime you're talking about a rezone, you obviously jump to the comprehensive plan. And the current comprehensive plan suggests that this area, as staff mentioned, is planned for a variety of mixed uses, from parks to mixed use to general commercial. The PUD has added more permitted diverse housing types, village homes, row houses, multifamily, some by special exception, and upper floor mixed use. We believe that the first criteria, we fall squarely within the spirit and the letter of the comprehensive plan through this PUD. The next criteria is looking at the current conditions and character of the area. This PUD is an extension of an already existing pattern of development in this area. And the intent is to squarely stay within those bounds and transpose that framework into a different area. I think we would all admit that a business along Main Street having a different footprint than a parcel that has, say, 20 acres in the South Village. So you can't overlay the same standards, but you can try to transpose some of the characteristics and feel height requirement, building standards, and the like. So we believe that the PUD in and of itself squarely meets this element as well. As the mayor mentioned, the goal has been to try to pull out of this area the most desirable use of the land. And we believe that a uniform application of development standards that is in line with the comprehensive plan does that and is in the best interest of the community. The homogeneous development of this area and the use, we believe, very much meets the third element of the statutory criteria. As everyone is aware, we turn to the fourth criteria, conservation of property values. This is an area that has high property values. It's very valuable property within the state. And we believe that creating a unified development overlay for this area will not only maintain those values, but it will enhance them by presenting a unified vision to those landowners of the South Village. A global view of the area having a positive impact on ultimate property values. The last criteria is responsible development and growth. As mentioned, the goal at the outset is to attract, but also to control development within the confines of this document. We believe that the development standards, if you get into the nuts and bolts of those, set a very high bar for the quality and the uses in the South Village area. And by definition, I would submit to you is responsible development and growth. One of the last areas from a statutory standpoint and ordinance standpoint that I need to touch upon are the PUD guidelines. And a few of those that I will touch on, the first is desirable character in harmony with the surrounding area and the comprehensive plan. We're trying to do just that. is to transpose a dissimilar area, the Main Street, onto the South Village District, which is the intent, to marry the bricks to the South Village. Another criteria is to create a unique and harmonious design. We believe that uniform development standards, by definition, do just that. Preserve natural amenities. We've talked a little bit about the creek, the tree canopy preservation, and the encouragement of, I believe, 40% preservation of green space in the South Village area. The proposed uses are compatible with existing uses. The comprehensive plan is our guide and looking at what is actually being used. We think that this is simply a continuation of just that. So we believe, I would submit to you that the general PUD conditions and design criteria have been squarely satisfied. So before I conclude my remarks, and Corey and I would be happy to answer questions, we look forward to that. There are a few things that I'd like to share with you that the PUD is not. And one of the comments that I've heard that the South Village is going to have a negative effect on the aesthetics of the village. And I would submit to you as we sit here today, that not the case. We believe that we are implementing stronger development standards that are unified and codified so that you have a harmonious South Village area. The other thing that this development or this proposed text amendment is it's not something that allows 60 or 62 feet buildings or 6 stories along South Main Street. That's not consistent with the spirit or the letter of what we have submitted to the Plan Commission for its consideration. There's also been quite a bit of discussion about roads and road alignment. This PUD is not a traffic plan. It's not asking for anybody to approve any road alignment. It is reactive to what's been approved or what's been planned, and it can adapt accordingly. So this is a living document that we think, as those changes may or may not occur within this area, this document can be adapted to reflect those changes. So thank you for your time. Corey and I would be happy to answer questions, and we look forward to it.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll take public comment for or against. I would ask that when you come up and talk, if you've heard your comment already given by somebody else, please don't repeat it. Just, you can say agree, whatever, but let's move on. I'm going to guess there's going to be quite a few people who want to speak. As is our practice at the Plan Commission, we generally try to let everybody, speak their mind. I would request that, any applause and anything like that is held to the end. Let's keep this thing moving. Let's remain, keep decorum in the room, if you will. I would ask if there's for the remonstrators, is there one representative? Is there somebody who's speaking for the group, or is everybody's going to be, speaking as an individual? All right, so there is nobody as one individual. All right. At that point, I will ask if there's anybody who'd like to speak on this matter. Please step forward, state your name and address.
My name is Kent Ezra. I live at 654 Spring Hills Drive here in Zionsville. My wife Liz and I own Cobblestone, 24 years now in downtown Zionsville. And the development of the South Village couldn't be more important. It is the most important thing going on in Zionsville today. It is, I believe, for the business owners that are currently on Main Street and around Main Street, very, very important. We've been through this process before. It's difficult. And I think with the current administration and the Plan Commission and those that are involved, we should be able to come up with a good plan. It's very important. I can't tell you how important it is. The South Village can't stay in its current position with nothing going on, gravel, where the Citgo used to be. When we first came in here as Cobblestone, there were a car wash and Citgo, and that's the only thing that's changed in 24 years. So I would say to you, please, let's come to an agreement, whatever that is. I think the administration has come up with a pretty good plan. I think it needs some work, like all things do. But I implore you guys to work on this, and let's get South Village developed, please. Thank you.
If you come on, just come on up, and if you want to just get in line, that's fine.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you very much. My name's Paul Dineline. I live at 641 Karen Drive. I'm the owner of Dineline Food Group, doing business as Our Place Coffee on First Street. We started coming up on 2 years ago now. I've spent hours and hours trying to read what's controlling the property right now versus what this will do for us. My number one concern is the uncontrolled properties and what can be built there. We've all in Zionsville seen that when a developer takes over, it kind of gets legs of its own. The architecture may not be exactly what we want. The size is definitely not going to be what we want, and everything's not going to be tied in together. Why now? Why so fast? Taylor Oil, and I don't know if there's anybody here from Taylor Oil. I don't know if they're ever planning on selling in the next 100 years. But that is a huge piece of property that if a developer takes over, it is already almost exactly the same restrictions as Zionsville is proposing. However, Zionsville would be controlling how many units, what size, what they look like, versus we have a document that we're fitting into the plans that you require us to, and we're going to build it our way. It won't match. You have the Dow Park across the street. It's owned by an Indianapolis corporation that they can develop it at any time. It is almost exactly the exact same standards that Mayor Stair is proposing. However, the developer will control that. If you want, I don't want to disparage any developers. We need them. They're all wonderful, but they have their own vision and they do need to make money. They're not that concerned about whether we have modern architecture or historic architecture or anything else. They're going to maximize it to the way that they want to. If we don't act now and create and build all of the PUD into one and control the property then that is not part of it, which is part of this proposal, it gives elected officials that you have and can hold accountable the ability to create facade standards, brick standards, window standards, everything else, and say yay or nay, where we don't have that under two huge pieces that we could look exactly like Carmel if we let them go to developers. It's not the streets, it's not the anything else. All of that is flexible as they figure out what's going to be built, but it gives the town and respected elected officials the ability to say, no, we're not building ultra-modern with glass decks and everything else for apartments. And we're not building TGI Fridays, and they may come up with that, but you all have a say in that. They're trying, from what I understand, my place has hosted 7 of these meetings, and every single time that they've spoken, it has been very simple. We are trying to make this tie in so that it supports my business on Main Street, his business on Main Street, the rest of them, so that we can build on it, not supersede it, not get rid of it, but make it look exactly the same. And the only way that I know of to do that is to have one entity control as much of it as possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Scott Gerald, 20-year resident of Zionsville. My wife and I moved here from Berkeley, bought a home. We love the village so much, we bought a couple more homes that we rent. We were hoping to have our children acquire them or bring in parents, whatnot. The reason I like Zionsville is it's charming. The plans that I see, although there's an attempt or there's a discussion about transitioning to something that's high density, between that high density area and the village, I don't believe that that transition can be made in any way that maintains the quaintness of the village. On top of that, I believe that the population expansion is too large. I'm trying to influence this board to take the residents into consideration and reduce at least three things, I would say. A, no apartments. Make them ownership and make them a little bit larger, less density. B, have a cap on the building. I'm sure you've all spoken about that, but I believe what I see now, although the transition is supposed to be there, it looks to me that a visual, you can see these higher level apartment buildings from the South Village. When I go through Brownsburg, I'm shocked at what's been built there, and I'm hoping I don't see something that looks like an atrocity here. So the other thing is, so a cap on the height, the parking garage. I don't know why we need a 5-story parking garage at the end of our little brick road. I believe if you want something like that, please move it out into the more industrial area. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please.
So my name is Jeff Raley. I live at 1025 West Poplar Street, which is a stone's throw over there. I run a business out of Z-Works, right on Main Street, right above Cobblestone. And I'm also on the board of Z-Works, and we support a nonprofit that supports business growth and economic development in Zionsville. On top of the other folks that have supported this plan, I also think this is a great thing for Zionsville. I went to high school here. My parents still live in town. I don't quite remember the gas station, but it's close. And ever since I've been here, that's been a gravel lot. It's frankly a shame that we have that, and we have the opportunity to create something beautiful and different. One thing I want to touch on is businesses like mine, as we grow, we have nowhere to go in terms of office space. Keeping people that want to live, work, and play here in Zionsville is actually kind of difficult. So having the amenities in the South Village, further towards 106th Street, to have those flexible office spaces is really, really important. As a board member of Z-Works and as a business owner, I think that's really, really effective. The other thing I'll mention is the population of Zionsville in the year 2000 was 10,300 people. In 2022, the last census, it was over 30,000 people. In that time frame, the support and the structure and the amenity of the village has not changed at all. I think we're doing ourselves a disservice to not consider expanding and building on what is the Main Street right now so that we can serve our community in the best way possible.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Stacy. Live at 60 South 2nd Street. I think I've made a mistake. I sent a very quick letter to our town council about 2.5 weeks ago. I heard back from 4 of them, thanking me for doing so. My wife and I, my own representative, I haven't heard from yet, telling me that they've received it. I've lived in Zionsville. I've lived downtown Zionsville for 78 years. I've had family-owned and operated businesses downtown for 35 years. I'm retired, about 17, I think. I spent 5 years as an employee in my youth at the Zionsville Times and Herald's Haberdashery. And I had to live with what's going on, what didn't go on the vacant lots north of Eagle Creek. As a businessman, as a citizen of our community, a volunteer, and that's the area that needs to be redeveloped at this time. It's always interesting to hear the comments about a planned unit development. But this is also, is this not also a planned unit development TIF? Jeff, is it a TIF? It's a TIF, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
You comment to us, please.
No,
And we'll address that question.
I hope
after
you
we come
do.
back up.
It's a very important question. I can remember back in the 1980s, helping to re-brick, not the Main Street we see now, but the original Main Street, not the one that the mayor talks about 1852. The brick street, the original brick street was put in 1930. But I think it's important that the public know about TIFs. When in 1999, John Stair, Mayor Stair, was here with his TV station before the ribbon cutting of that. And I think it was not only the ribbon cutting of Main Street, but it was the beginning of the TIF, the Main Street TIF, which should be expiring either this year or next year. I think it's important that you look at that. To me, that is paramount. We have some rentals here in town, my wife and I. Property taxes on those went up 11.3%. Home was about 6, excuse me. But I think that's an important thing. I'm in favor of finally doing something with the north of Eagle Creek. That's lingered there. We used to have a store down in that area, as well as one up on North Main and one near Kent's establishment over the 35 years. But I think you need to tone this down a lot. And in my letter that I sent to the town council, I should have sent it to you, each one of you, within the past 3 years. I've been almost hit by a car twice. My wife once. We've had other people actually hit. There's a huge traffic problem, and I know it because I've lived there for a long time now. But there'll be other opportunities for me. But if you could reach out, or I'll reach out to the town council and ask them to forward our 2-page single-spaced explanation to you about our position on this. Something needs to be done north of Main or Eagle Creek, and I appreciate the opportunity to address this very briefly. And if I can ever help in any way to give you some insight into the history of our community, please call me. I'll spend hours with you if you need it. Okay? I mean, this is an important thing, very important. You know, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Come on.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jamie Peebler, and I live at 510 West Pine Street. Some of you probably see me digging in the dirt. I dig for grubs by hand and plant things and reglaze windows. So my husband and I have lived here for 15 years. Actually, he's been here longer. And we have 3 children that we've raised here. And the reason we chose Zionsville over Meridian Kessler, where we came before, was that it felt like a safe, family-oriented community. I liked seeing kids dump in the creek. I liked seeing kids ride bikes. I felt safe with my kids riding bikes through the village, and I wouldn't say that today, because of what Ralph said. So although we're at 5th and Pine and we have the crosswalk, I can't tell you how many times we have almost gotten hit by cars. And so while I heard we're not really addressing the road issues, I am concerned that we do have problems that we are not focusing on that are serious. I think that's important to deal with those things before we take on another big project. I do appreciate the pause to give the community time to weigh in. One question I would pose is, I heard preserving 40% of the green space. Does that mean taking 60% of the green space? And I appreciate the point about the statistics of how our population has grown. I'm wondering, if we've almost tripled, why do we still only have 1 functioning crosswalk in the village? I'm also concerned about thinking about just getting here tonight from our home. We couldn't cross at 5th and Pine because there's only sidewalks on one side of Oak. So we had to cross in the business area. So we took turns watching for traffic so that we could run across the street, watching middle schoolers do the same thing in front of Starbucks. I think we owe the community here the respect for care and safety and dealing with the priority issues first, and then let's deal with the big visions later.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Hi, I'm Regina Sharrow, 1838 Corniche Drive, lived here over 20 years. You know, I love the idea of developing South, totally all for supporting our businesses and supporting our residents. It just has to be the right kind of development, and I think there are lots of things we can do. Super excited about going east, the Creekside. You can have 5-story buildings on Creekside. That's okay, as long as they're not apartments. But I think I think a lot of us here that are concerned about preserving the charm of South Village, the south of the village, which I consider Main Street and Zionsville Road. East side, I'm not so concerned. And I think the biggest thing that we're all worried about is just preserving the charm and small business of our town. I've heard some great things. Taylor Oil property, I've heard, I don't know if this is a done deal or beginning of a done deal, but they're gonna have 55 and older senior housing. Townhomes, condominiums, that sounds cool. Those are folks who are gonna use the town, they're not gonna use our schools, they're not gonna stress our infrastructure. That sounds great, I like that. We just heard that we've struggled with our identity over the last 30 years. To me, that sounds like the biggest argument for waiting until the comprehensive plan, the updated comprehensive plan is done. I mean, if we want an identity, South Village needs to be part of our identity, and South Village needs to be part of the identity of the entire town of Zionsville. I think that's really important. I want to talk a minute about congestion and overcrowding of our roads and schools. You know, we have over 700 apartments coming in online in the next few years. They're already being built. Can we just sort of wait and absorb those and see if we can absorb those? And, you know, is that going to stress our infrastructure? What about our sewers? What about our water? What about, you know, our roads and crosswalks and all the other things we've talked about? I just don't like the idea of starting something new when we don't even know what that is going to do to our town. We've heard from the mayor that there is a desire for housing downtown in the village. I have talked to many, many people, and I haven't heard anybody say, oh, we need more homes in the village. I haven't. And what I did hear in one of the several meetings I went to is that people sitting in the crowd listening to the mayor said, when the mayor said, we need people that will use these new facilities. We want to build restaurants and all these other businesses, but a developer needs an audience to use those. And the people in the crowd yelled, we're here. We're going to Zionsville twice a week, or to Carmel twice a week, because Zionsville doesn't have enough restaurants and things for us to use. We want to spend our money here. We want to stay here. We want to be here. We want facilities here in Zionsville for us to use. So we're here. If you build it, we will come. We really will. We don't need apartments. We don't need rentals. We need, if we're going to, you know, build housing and row houses, I don't know exactly what that is or why we need that, but we need ownership. We need folks to own their property, not be coming in and moving out, stressing our teachers and our schools. We just don't need that. I've also heard that, I don't know how we know all of this, but we've heard there's this $246 million budget. Where does that come from? And maybe you guys can ask that question. Who's spending that $246 million? We've heard that nobody knows, no developers have given us any plans, but somehow we know it's $246 million. I just don't know where that comes from, and I'd love to hear that. I've also heard the mayor state he's 100% certain that no developer would do this without building apartments. And nobody in the room was happy to hear that. But at a different meeting, I heard, well, there may or may not be apartments. We don't really know because we haven't spoken to developers, and so it's yet to be seen. We need to know. That's important, and I think we know it's awesome that we're doing this preventively, or however you want to say it, we're putting this in place. I do think it's awesome. I agree with the first couple of folks that spoke. This is absolutely the right thing to do, but it needs to reflect what the residents want in conjunction with what the business owners want, because we want you guys to stay. We love you. We want to support you. But really happy that you're not voting tonight and that we can all sort of give you some feedback and you can take into consideration what we're doing. And my final, I would say, can we please just wait for the comprehensive plan? We've said, oh, we've done nothing for 30 years. What's another 12 months? What's another 18 months? We've been sitting on this for 30 years. Let's get it right. Thank you.
Okay, I can't see. Give me a second. Good evening. I'm Julia Schultz. We live at 8440 Hunt Club Road. And I just want to ask some questions. I think it's great that you're getting ahead of it and actually having a plan, because we do want to control what happens. It's just how we're controlling it that is concerning me. I've listened to our mayor, and I appreciate him making himself available as he has, but the comment has always been 88% of our tax revenue, our property tax revenue, is coming from homeowners. We need to diversify. We need commercial. Why are we adding more apartments? We've got so many developments going in already. My husband and I moved here 3.5 years ago to make this our forever home. We escaped from California in one of the last towns that was similar to Zionsville. And we asked all kinds of questions of your building department. Do you do high density housing? Do you do all this stuff that California crams down everybody's throat? No, we don't do that here. So we were so relieved. It's beautiful. We love it. And now I'm seeing all this going in. So I don't agree with putting any housing in your village. I don't go to the village for houses. I go to the village to shop, and I'd like more places to shop there. I'd like it accessible. So I'm wondering, how is this helping my property tax base if you keep adding homes that are now going to tax or put a burden on our fire, our police, our schools, the roads, et cetera? It's not helping me as a taxpayer. So that is a concern. I don't want to repeat stuff. It sounds like it's a little premature as far as how it's going to be laid out. The mayor talked about a road change with some roundabouts, and that's a little frightening because it looked like a nightmare. If I come from Austin Oaks, where my mom is, and try to get over to Hunt Club, I don't want to have to be forced down the brick street if I don't need to go there. I can't make a left onto First if you make it a one-way in the north section of it. It won't affect the mayor's house because nobody can turn left on 6th Street, so I guess he's okay with that. But everybody else that lives in that village, people are cutting down those streets. Those streets were not designed to have cars cutting through. So as you're doing the traffic plan, please be careful. Don't make it so difficult to get to Main Street that, okay, great, now you're expanding it, you've got more things I want to go see, but I don't want to go there because I can't get to it easily. So you got to watch out for that. I think the rest of it's going to, I'll say for June, because we're a little premature, but the housing is the biggest issue for me. And while we're doing this, can we please get a Trader Joe's around here somewhere? Thank you.
Laurel Tobin, 7935 East 100 South. I just wanted to touch on the housing in the village itself. I grew up in Zionsville as well. And when I got done with college, I wanted to move back to Zionsville. And specifically, I wanted to move into a second-story apartment over one of the businesses on Main Street. Those weren't available to me. There aren't enough of them. So speaking of this idea of housing downtown, that's a very common, very traditional typology that you see in small American towns on main streets. You see businesses on the first floor with housing above. If you walk into any small town in Indiana, that is how their main streets were formed. And that's what I'm hearing what we're planning to do directly south of the existing Main Street district. And that's something that I personally, as a single person with no kids, would love and would utilize. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm only here to say, hey, Ralph, my email is Sarah, for Sarah Sampson. All the other counselors are their first initial and last name, but I'm S.E. Sampson, so I never received your letter. So I just came up here to let you know. I will read it if you send it to me. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Hi, my name's Karina Papabathini. I reside at 4709 Ashwood Court in Zionsville. I have a quick question that popped into my mind. So a lot of things have already been talked about, but I think the last time that you saw a room this full was when we were looking at form-based code. And I'd like to know if this PUD is essentially form-based code. And if we can get that answer tonight, that would be wonderful. Also, I actually just drove through Brownsburg myself, and I know somebody else mentioned it. I was going to pick up some chickens for a friend, and you initially drive through what would be like their village, and then you are struck by these 5-story monstrosities that you typically see in Carmel. And I don't see the difference between what this PUD is planning and what I saw there. I'm not seeing that. And so we're literally asking, or I should say our town is asking for a blank slate. They're saying, hey guys, trust us. We are going to make sure that it looks like your charming village. Just trust us. Just write us this blank 160-acre check. Now, I haven't seen any city or town do that. I've never seen them. I haven't seen them so far do what the residents asked. So I just want to know, Mayor Stair, if you're still here. Hi. I voted for you. I just want to know what kind of promise we're going to get, and I'd like it in writing if that's okay. That it's not going to look like Brownsburg or Carmel. Not only that, I've asked multiple times, and I still don't. Actually, your answer was I don't know. So I'm going to ask the question again here on the record. In this 69 it says actually, but you told me it was 60, so I don't know, whichever it is.
You're addressing the Plan Commission.
Yes, absolutely. 160-acre PUD, I'd like to know how many high-density apartments could potentially be built now and in the future. We would like that number, and we're not going to go away until we get that number, with all due respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? Anybody else? Okay.
Sorry, I just got here. Do I need to say my address?
Name and address, please.
Anna Shapaw, 11779 East 200 South. Good evening. This is the second time I found myself at a planning commission meeting. I moved to Zionsville 2 years ago thinking I was coming here for this homestead life. I wanted chickens, I wanted a garden, I wanted privacy. We picked Zionsville over Carmel and Fishers because of the charm, because of the quaintness, because of the trees, because of the sensible development. I'm not against development. I desperately want to stop spending my money in Carmel. I want to eat here. I want a community center. I want retail shops. I want to attract more businesses. What I don't want is high-density housing to take over. I come from Champaign, Illinois. Look up the crime statistics there. In 2021, our drive-by crime surpassed Chicago's per capita. Why? Look at our tenant versus non-tenant ratio. Over 50% of the people that live in that community rent. 10 years ago, they started building luxury apartments. They looked beautiful. I would have died to move into one of them. Today, they look like slums. They're filled with trash, full of crime, and attracting low-income housing and a lot of problems that are now contributing to those issues in the city. I understand Zionsville is not Champaign, Illinois, and it will never become that. But my question to you is, what is the plan for our tenant versus non-tenant ratio? Where do we want to be? What percentage of renters do we want to have versus owners? And if we don't know the answer to that question, we need to slow down, and we need to wait for our comprehensive plan. High-density housing is a slippery slope. It takes one drug dealer from Indianapolis to have his girlfriend pass a background check and get one of those $2,500 apartments in the South Village, and everything changes. I watched it happen. I gave up my life because of it, and I'm not willing to do it again. So I stand here wishing I was at home with my 4-year-old, but instead asking you to please, I didn't see the beginning. I heard that maybe we're not voting on this tonight. My ask is that we decide what is that tenant to non-tenant ratio, and let's put that in the comprehensive plan, and let's make sure our schools support that. Let's make sure our roads support that. Let's make sure our water supply supports that. Let's look into some crime and what crime does to communities. I spoke to the former school board president, and he told me that without question, apartment kids hurt the school systems. Test scores go down, crime goes up. This is the former school board president. I come from a trailer park. I grew up with no money. I was the first person to put myself to college, so I'm not sitting here as a rich person from Zionsville saying that. I'm sitting here as a person who earned everything I have on my own, who worked really hard to get to Zionsville, and who cares about protecting what we have. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to comment? All right, at this point, petitioner, would you like to?
Would you mind just ask a question?
Yep, come on up.
My name is John Towsley, and I live at 305 West Pine Street here in the village. Have been here since 1978. Mr. Franz, will you hold public comment open to the next meeting?
That's traditionally, we have done that.
Okay, that's all I
When
need
it
to
carries
know.
over.
Yeah, I had a study committee for the VRA that's looking at this. And frankly, we haven't had enough time to study this. As has been remarked, it's been an evolving concept, and that doesn't speed up review. So all I want to make sure is that we're able to comment at the next meeting. You've advised me we can. So that's all I need to know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. With that, good segue, thank you, that we will take comments again from the public next month, or whenever we continue this too. So the petitioner, you obviously heard quite a few things in there.
Yeah,
Would you like to address some of them now?
You know, we took lots of notes, and we will sort of put our heads together and how to respond. You know, one comment, you know, hearing about comprehensive plan versus now, one of the things that's important to understand is that this property can be developed today under current guidance. And that's something that's important. The reason, the timing behind this is that is beginning to happen. And we want to get out ahead of that and put down something that has teeth to it. A comprehensive plan is a suggestion. It's a guidance, and it's changeable, can be disregarded. So we want something with a little bit more teeth behind it. But having said that, we heard a lot of good feedback tonight, and we will put our heads together on how to address some of those. We may not address them satisfactorily, and we're not quite sure how we will answer some of these questions. They may not be. We'll do the best we can.
Can you, I mean, there's one thing to TIF. Can you respond to the point that it's a TIF?
Corey addressed that.
Good evening, Plan Commissioners. Corey Sharp, Director of the Redevelopment Commission. TIF is a separate process from land use. What we are proposing in front of you today is a land use requirement. Different land uses pay property taxes, and those taxes are collected to pay public service and public infrastructure. TIF is a tax increment finance where it collects the property tax based on the land use. It is a designated area, and that structure is established through many different boards, the Redevelopment Commission, the Plan Commission, Economic Development Commission, and the Town Council. Any project that is property specific or a general area that is seeking TIF has to go before each one of those boards and go through a separate process for tax increment financing to fund public infrastructure or economic development activities in blighted areas. There is an entire state statute around TIF, tax increment financing, and economic development areas. And this project has a TIF area today. It is called the Zionsville TIF area. The Redevelopment Commission has a website, and the TIF map is up there showing all of the different TIF areas. Each TIF area has a timeline for what it can be in existence for, and that's 25 years. So every area has a sunset. There are multiple TIF areas actually in here because we have the Creekside TIF as well. So separate from land use is this opportunity to seek tax increment financing to fund public infrastructure up front. That is not part of this process today. Sure. And just one other correction. We have an area that shows preservation in the land use area. This preservation is 40% of the existing green space, the existing tree canopy. We want to preserve that. So that's the statistic. I believe there's a question around 60% taking away green space or 40% preserving. So our intent is to preserve the existing green space and not take away from that.
All right, thank you. All right, at this point, comments, suggestions from any members of the Plan Commission?
Sure. So this is just an informational thing. So taxation on commercial properties is at 3%. For rent residential is at 2%, and for sale residential is at 1%. So somebody made a comment about why do we need more homes that are residences at 1%? Just there's a different structure there when it comes to for rent residences and tax. I appreciated the comment from Lauren, I think it was, about having some additional residences in the village. If you ask somebody that lives in the village if we need more homes, they're going to say no. But then the people that are younger that are trying to live near the downtown village, or myself, I live out in Stonegate. And, you know, when my wife and I go to retire, we want to live in not a house. I don't want to maintain the property, but some sort of apartment type, at least size-wise, residence downtown, and be close to everything that we can walk to. So I appreciate that perspective that she raised regarding new graduates and trying to be able to afford to be in Zionsville.
I worked 20 years to move to
You can't, please. No comments, please. Let's.
I think that's all I had.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, there was a question about whether this proposed PUD is the same or equivalent to a form-based code.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And the PUD is based on more traditional type zoning where land use is determined by zoning district, whereas form-based land use is determined by the form or the style or architectural function of the building. So it's a really different approach towards land use, form-based code is, rather than traditional zoning. And again, the PUD follows more of a traditional style of based on zoning.
So
it's not.
Please. So I've got a comment on, Jody mentioned it as the Zionsville theme and the buildings. And I appreciate the fact we want to keep the Zionsville theme, but there's areas down there which currently, you take a look at in the Creekside, very modern buildings. I think it would be better if we clearly defined areas where it's going to be, structures such as that versus the Zionsville theme elsewhere in there, right? It shouldn't be on them to decide if something fits or something doesn't fit. Clearly define it so it's easier for them to make those decisions. There are things I don't want to, have this thing completed, and if it gets done and it comes back to us every time somebody wants to build something and it's up to the Plan Commission to approve or goes to the BZA, we don't want that. We want to have it set up where it makes sense and everybody knows what the rules are and what the ordinances are. Myself personally, I take a look at the work that was done on the Gateway project and this. I think everybody, I felt pretty good after the Gateway, study. It sounded like we had some pretty good feedback and input from the public. It felt like we were going in the right direction. And I knew that when we finally did something with it, with this PUD, there's going to be some remonstrance and there's going to be some concerns. It's good to get it out. I know that, the town wants to understand what your comments are, what your concerns are. And this was not going to get punched through. We knew it was going to take a little bit of time. So, and we're willing to put whatever time is in it to make sure it's correct.
If I can piggyback on your comment regarding to Jody's question, there are all of about 3 buildings in Zionsville that actually meet the Zionsville theme. That was something that somebody thought up about 15 years ago when they did the zoning code to make us ultimately look like Carmel, that we have this Disney-themed series of facades that don't actually match the types of architecture that we have in downtown Zionsville. We do have historic architecture, mind you, but the types of architecture that are listed in the Zionsville theme literally do not exist largely in Zionsville. And so I do think that we need to define what we want. Need to be very clear on what that is. I think stating the Zionsville theme is disingenuous to what we have and what we should want. We should definitely want it to be complementary. We know there are new and different building materials out there that can be utilized, but trying to make sure that we control those in a way that doesn't disrupt the character of the village. So not for me personally, not Zionsville theme, but let's figure out the architecture we want that is complementary to that, whatever we call it, and get that style kind of embedded in the code.
All right. Anybody else? I'll ask this question, is 1 month enough?
From a petitioner's perspective, we believe so. Okay. Thank you for the question.
All right. What's that? What are the Plan Commission's thoughts on 1 month, 2 month continuance?
Do we have quorum in 2 months? I know there was some concern about that.
I'll be remote, but I'll be in.
You're gone, aren't you, Chris?
I'm gone and probably won't have access to internet
In 1 month or 2, Chris?
in July.
July.
Yeah. Sorry, I will not be present in July, and I don't think I'll have access to internet to be able to be in remotely.
Cindy, were you present?
I will not. You won't either.
Because I'm not going to be here in June. So who are you? Is everybody else here in June?
Yes, I'm here in June.
I'm here in June, July, August.
I will do whatever I can to try to do it remotely. I'll have to talk to IT about that because last time I was out of the country, I couldn't connect in on Zoom meetings. So I'd like to figure out how I could do that.
What if we continued till June, see where things stand, and if we need to continue it again, we do that.
That was going to be my suggestion. Please, that would be, that would keep everybody focused.
All right.
Thank you.
And we'll give her, just as we've always done, and I know that when this thing does go to the town council, sometimes that there's not a lot of opportunity to comment at the town council. The one thing that the Plan Commission has done, I mean, if you actually saw our rules of procedure, we blow by the rules on the 10-minute limit all the time. So just letting you know that we want to hear what everybody has to say. We want to make sure that people are heard, and we'll do everything we can to kind of incorporate that into what we can.
Jim has a comment.
So.
The staff, and even in their report, and it's been raised a couple of times tonight, and you addressed it about the style and the themes that we might want to see. Are we asking the petitioner to sharpen that up, or is the Plan Commission, or is staff asking the Plan Commission to sharpen that up?
I mean,
so
go ahead.
For what it's worth, I have quite a few markups in my copy that I'm more than happy to send on for both staff and the petitioner to look at for whatever that's worth.
We would welcome that going through staff, but we would believe the onus is on the petitioner to make those edits.
I just wanted to make sure somebody was taking
No, we-
responsibility for doing it.
We
think
appreciate
they-
it.
I think they got
Appreciate
it.
All right.
I just elbowed Corey twice and said she better start drafting, so, but we would appreciate those comments. if you can.
All right, so let's go ahead and continue this to the June 17th meeting. So is there a motion to do that?
I move that we continue this until June 17th.
So moved.
Second? There's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. This matter is continued to next month. Thanks. If we're going to have people departing, which I'm guessing we might, let's go ahead and get that done now. And if you would, we'll give you a few minutes to clear the room so we can, actually continue business without the noise.
I have one word about that. Right there.
It's our job.
My mom's coming in a few weeks.
One time.
You continue?
Yeah, I'll
It's back there usually. It's might get
Season 9, season 200. I just wish you saw that girl. She's about ready.
I was. I have it.
She's doing all right. Really?
They had a bad experience the first time. They put up a little bit down experience.
Where are they?
Virginia.
Okay, I thought they were.
They were
Right.
I don't think
So she see some of the active duty? Okay.
Yeah, she just went on a.
I like you so. I'm surprised, honestly. My brother-in-law lost the other. He said it was a great decision. Bring it down.
Good to see you.
You've been very, very successful.
Still went free.
No, it's still not free. It's not free for a long time.
We could suspend rules pretty much every
Price.
year.
Yeah. Across the. Here's the sheets of
All right, we're going to go ahead and get things fired back up. Next on the docket is docket number 2023-57 DPA, Yankee Development Promontory Bond and Berms, 9825 Windy Hills Drive, Zionsville. Development Plan Amendment to permit additional berms and a reduction in size of the pond being zoned planned unit development, Promontory PUD. Roger? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. As mentioned, the next petition to be heard is Development Plan Amendment. This is to permit additional berms and a reduction in the size of a pond within the Promontory PUD. On the screen, you'll see the outline of Section 1 of Promontory is outlined in black. Section 1 is the only section that has been approved so far for this PUD. The remaining area will be known as Section 2. The zoning of the entire site is the PUD. And the project received development plan approval for Section 1 of the development back on July 18th of 2022. This approval included landscaping and grading plans which depicted earth berms flanking the primary vehicular entry on US 421 and a few locations along the north and northeast boundaries of the development. Those existing berms, I mentioned that flank the entry. For orientation, this is Michigan Road. This is the main entry into the development. And again, on both sides of it and also through the median were berms that were proposed. As development commenced on the project, additional berms along the northern boundary and the project's southern boundary were constructed. It's staff's understanding that these berms were constructed to provide additional buffering from the surrounding roads and privacy from adjacent uses. Additionally, a retention pond located near the northeast corner of the overall development was reshaped and downsized. This pond is involved in the fire protection for the overall development. As I scroll through these next few slides, I'm highlighting areas where the new berms, again, which were not previously approved, where the new berms do now exist. So again, the main entry is here to the south. So we have berms along the north. Then as we go along County Road 200 north, we have just the end of that one berm and continuing on another new one here. We've got some berms that were previously approved that are not part of this DPA. But then as we get to the northeastern corner of the site, again, we've got berms that were previously approved, but this is the pond that is being resized. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Coming back now to the main entry over on Michigan Road, we've got berms along the south side that continue on along the southern part. And again, no berms were initially proposed for this area and terminating here. Some might be wondering, why is this type of project coming before the Planning Commission when we're talking about berms and ponds? This does affect drainage over the entire site, not only within the site, but then also properties adjacent to the overall development of surface water coming down across this site. And so those berms needed to be studied and looked at from the development plan standpoint. Regarding the resizing of the pond, here is the pond as it was originally designed, and just below it is how it has been constructed. The fire department has issued a comment letter which includes a request for an updated construction timeline for the installation of the fire pump and pump house, and additionally they are noting a requirement for performance and maintenance bonds for the private water system. Again, this pond is designed to be part of the fire protection system for the entire development. Currently, as it's constructed, it is not refilling at a rate that the fire department is happy with. It has been refilled basically by trucked-in water, and the fire department is just wanting to know, what is the long-range plan for this? How is it going to be resolved? I specifically asked the fire department, so is this a concern that should prevent it from going forward to the Planning Commission as a DPA? And they said, no, it's not to that. We just need a comment from the developer as to what is the plan for this pond being refilled when it needs to be. So again, drainage, our stormwater section has looked at the drainage, how the berms affect the drainage. They're fine with this. Fire department has looked at the resizing of the pond, and they just need further information from the petitioner. So with that, staff supports conditional approval of the submitted development plan amendment, subject to the items noted within the fire department's comment letter. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Roger. Petitioner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. My name is Matt Price. I'm here tonight on behalf of Hinkie Development Group. Appreciate very much Roger's summary of the proposal that you have before you. Let me talk first to the berms. There were some berms that were approved as part of the initial development plan and some that were added as the grading of the site commenced. And Roger correctly characterized those as really adding some additional screening, primarily located around the north edge of the project where it abuts County Road 200, and then importantly along the southern border of the property as well. As part of the drainage review for the proposal with those additional berms, we were asked to secure 2 off-site drainage easements from our neighbors to the south, Mr. Bidgood and the Hughes family, which we did obtain those drainage easements. Those also include adding some improvements off-site to provide an appropriate outlet for the stormwater leaving the property and entering into a legal drain. So we've addressed those concerns, and it took us, if you may recall, working through the continuances, it took us a little while to negotiate those offsite easements. Then secondly, the pond in the northeast corner of the property was resized. That triggered some additional fire protection review to assure that the pond was recharging with sufficient volume to meet needed outtakes from the pond as a surface water supply for fire protection. And I understand that the calculations that have been provided to the fire department do evidence that our recharge rates are adequate, but the understanding is that the fire department will then test our pump and actually do a field test to prove that concept before they will release any homes to receive a certificate of occupancy. And while it's not common to have a surface water impoundment as a source of fire protection water, that has been the protocol they've followed in other such instances where they do a testing on site to verify. So they will not accept just the mathematical calculations, but rather they want to actually see it work in the field. And we're perfectly comfortable with that approach as well. I should add that the developer also has great incentive to move along with the timing for the construction of the pump house. Most importantly for them is that the certain of the homes on the property are part of the Homerama this fall in September. And so following approval this evening, if we're fortunate enough to receive approval, we're happy to work with the fire department and Mr. Frost specifically, who's been our primary contact on that timing. We've also corresponded about updating our bonding, performance bonding going forward as well. So feel very well coordinated on that, certainly willing to commit to the field testing prior to any occupancy.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody who'd like to comment on this matter? If not, open up to members of the Plan Commission.
Matt, the overall height of the berms didn't really necessarily change. It was just the footprint of them, correct? I mean, it looks like they got wider and longer, but not necessarily taller.
And not taller, but they were added. On the original development plan, some of the berms were already shown, others were not. And I think when they came out and started doing some of the actual shaping of the land, some berms were added, and that's what triggered the additional review late last fall.
I noticed it looked like they gained height based off the original.
Yeah, based on originally proposed. Yeah.
Are the retention ponds just providing fire protection for a limited number of houses or through the whole development, or is it coming from different ponds?
It's coming from different ponds. And they also serve a function to hold some of the water back before it's released, for example, as the water goes south into the legal drain. But the reason why the northeastern pond was identified for additional research and asking us to provide updated calculations was the size of that pond was reduced as part of as the land plan was implemented. Right.
All right. What's the solution if it doesn't pass the test?
Well, I think they would be looking at perhaps going back in and enlarging the pond once again. They're very comfortable, though, in the calculations I've seen that it does, in fact, meet the recharge requirements.
Okay. Anybody else? If there isn't, would somebody like to make a motion on this matter?
I move the docket number 2023-57-DPA, a development plan amendment to permit additional berms and a reduction in size of a pond being zoned plan unit development promontory PUD, be conditionally approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report, staff recommendations, and subject to the items noted within the fire department's comment letter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay? Those opposed by nay? Motion carries 7-0. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Next on the docket, new business. 2024-24 DPA. AES Office Warehouse renovation, 7031 Mayflower Park Drive, development plan amendment for the renovation of an existing office warehouse building in the urban light industrial I-1 district. Waivers for architectural design and building materials are requested. Jody?
Yes. Thank you. This is another amendment to a previously approved development plan. This is an expansion to an existing facility located on Mayflower Park Drive, which is this road right here. This is 106th Street, and the subject building is right here. It's zoned I2, which is a general industrial zoning. And then the proposal is to construct a building addition on the south side of the building. Oh, this doesn't, sorry, this did not copy very well, but I'll draw the outline of the building. So the existing former warehouse facility is here. This is an existing truck dock, which is going to be enclosed and used to park a couple of vehicles. The BZA granted 3 variances for this property to reduce the side yard setback on the south end to 0 and the side yard setback on the east property line to 0, and to reduce the number of required parking spaces to 39, which this plan meets. The project is also requesting waivers from the Zionsville theme and for the required building materials. The existing building did not meet the Zionsville theme or the building materials, so this building is being an addition. It's going to get a facelift, but also is not going to meet the Zionsville theme or all of the building materials. So there are 2 waivers that need to be approved beforehand, but then approving the amendment, and staff is recommending approval.
All right, thank you. Petitioner?
Thank you. Sean Curran with Curran Architecture. Office is at 5745 Lawton Loop East Drive. And as Jody mentioned, this is an existing building located on Mayflower Park Drive. Was constructed in 2000 and predating, it was governed by the county, not the town of Zionsville at the time it was constructed. And as such, there were a number of things that didn't comply with current zoning requirements. We are constructing or proposing an addition. The building was primarily used as office and warehouse with 2 truck docks on the south end. We are eliminating those truck docks, doing an addition onto the building to provide enclosed parking for AES Restaurant Group. They're the owner of the building. They moved their corporate headquarters to this building and are in the process currently of doing interior renovation of the building to occupy the entire building. As part of the exterior renovation, they also want to update the exterior of the building. It's currently precast concrete with fluted concrete panels, very dated looking, looks very industrial. And what they're proposing is recladding the north and west elevations, the sides that face 106th and Mayflower Park Drive, with fiber cement siding, adding a large eyebrow over the elevation, those 2 elevations, and then repainting the south and east sides of the building that are not visible from the street. The view you can see there shows the 2 garage doors for the vehicle parking, and I believe that pretty much covers what we're asking for tonight. We feel that this, well, it doesn't comply with the Zionsville theme that has been discussed already at length, I think. We do feel that it upgrades the look of the area. I think in the packet I included some photos of existing buildings that the majority of the buildings that are in this area all predate the town's kind of governance of the area. We feel that this actually kind of more fits in with what is going on in Creekside, a little bit more contemporary look, a little bit more high-tech technology look, a little bit more fitting of an office user than an industrial user, which obviously it's no longer an industrial use. So happy to answer any questions you've got. The AES Restaurant Group, they're very excited to get this project going. As I mentioned, they've been in the building occupying, kind of band-aiding together the interior as they've been kind of hopeful to get this project moving forward. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the public like to comment on this matter? Anybody in the planning commission has questions, comments?
I think it looks really good.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
A big improvement.
Sean, in your documents, you call out Nichiha as the product. Is that for sure what you're going to use?
That is the intent,
Okay.
yes.
And a pre-finished form of that?
Yes,
Okay.
that is also the intent. They will probably get custom colored, but they will be pre-finished.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so we need to approve the waivers first and then the docket item.
I move that the waiver of architectural building design requirements be approved based on the findings in the staff report and Exhibit 6A as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. The motion carries 7-0.
I move that the waiver of building materials be approved on the basis, based on the findings in the staff report and Exhibit 6B as presented.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion also carries.
No, I'm getting pointed at. I move that docket number 2024-24-DPA Development Plan Amendment for an office building on approximately 1.5 acres in the Urban General Industrial I-2 District be approved based on, 1, the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, and 2, submitted findings of fact.
All right, is there a second? None. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. That also carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
So on this next docket item, I need to recuse myself.
Okay, thanks.
They're still out there, so I'm going to go out. Otherwise, I may get punished.
Smart. All right, docket number 2024-26DP, Old Town Companies LLC, Wild Air Clubhouse, southeast corner of Russell Street and Liz Drive within the Wild Air, east side of Marysville Road. Development plan for the clubhouse and related amenities on a 2.7 plus minus acres within the Wild Air PUD. Roger?
Sir. As mentioned, this is a development plan petition for clubhouse and its related amenities for the Wild Air development. The approximate location of the Wild Air Clubhouse I have up on the screen before you. This is within the perimeter of the Wild Air development. Again, for orientation, Oak Street is across the southern part here, and this is Marysville Road as we go north. Moving on, this map shows that the entire property of not only the subject site, but then also the surrounding area is zoned for the Wild Air PUD. To give a little more context as to the location of the clubhouse area, it is located in this area, which is a part of, it was known as the multifamily development plan and primary plat. This portion of the development of the Wild Air development was approved at the February 20th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting, but the development of this specific site that I've outlined in red for the proposed clubhouse was not included in that approval. This is a depiction of the overall site for the clubhouse. The proposed 10,800 square foot single-story clubhouse is to be available for all for the use of all residents within the Wild Air development. Uses to be included within the clubhouse include fitness facilities, pool, restrooms, and lounge areas. Outside amenities on the site include multiple gathering areas with seating, 2 pools, a child's zero depth entry pool, and an adult lounge pool. Activity areas with synthetic turf, fire pits, and crushed stone trail through the existing wooded preservation area. You'll see also that the pathway that runs through many different portions of Wild Air is shown here along the southern and western edges of the site, also border the northern edge and come down along the eastern edge. I mentioned a trail through the preserved woodland area. That would be this trail in this location. With the submittal, building elevations were submitted. The building materials include a board and batten siding, and portions of the roofing include metal and asphalt shingles. Going to go back to the site plan real quick for one topic of interest. Within the PUD ordinance, the parking requirements are detailed within Section 8, but do not require any on-site parking. The proposed parking for the clubhouse would be on the street. We have perpendicular spaces here, and that would be on Liz Drive. And then we have 20 angled spaces to be constructed here on the south side of the site on Littleton Street. Just want to point that out because quite often people are wondering about on-site parking for uses. And again, within the PUD ordinance, it is not required. So this is what is being proposed. Staff supports conditional approval of the submitted development plan, subject to the items noted within the staff comment letter, which is presented as Exhibit 5 to the staff report. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Thank you. Jared Wilkerson with Kimley Horn. I'm the civil engineer on the project. We have Ryan Wire with Old Town here to answer any questions. I don't want to repeat what Roger went over. I had a pretty similar presentation, but he covered everything. So happy to answer any questions.
All right, trying to speed things along. That's good. Anybody else have any comments on this matter from the public? Come on up.
My name is B. Joy. I live on the Sycamore Court, which is just west of the Maryville Road, which is a new one. I like the new development which is going to happen in the Wildair community. I encourage new developments coming there, definitely. I've been in Zionsville for almost 9 years, lived in multiple apartments here, and then finally last year I moved to this new property on Sycamore Court. My backyard faces this particular road. So when I got this property last summer, the traffic was there. I was happy with that, no problem. But when winter came in, I can see the complete traffic going in, not because of the traffic has improved, but because it was open completely. So with this new development happening, I feel that there will be more traffic coming in, which might affect my peacefulness on the backyard. So probably my suggestion will be, I am not against any development. I like developments. But if the Planning Commission and the city can make any arrangements for having something like an evergreens on the side of that particular area, which can protect the peacefulness of all those people living in that small cul-de-sac on that side, that'll be good. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Comment on that?
This specific petition, since the development plan's interior to Wildair, it's not really going to impact that, but I don't know, Roger maybe can comment on some of the details related to what's provided on some of the perimeter.
So I'm looking at the map, and it's it's next to Marysville Road on the west side. So I mean, that's not even property. That's not property you're developing on that. So,
right.
So
if we could have IT share my screen, I've got the aerial map up that shows the location of the relationship between the subject site for the clubhouse, which is here. And again, here's Marysville Road, and Sycamore Court is down in this area, just to the northwest of the intersection of Oak and Marysville. So Sycamore Court is rather removed from this specific site. This area is going to see an increase in traffic, which was considered during the rezoning process, and the traffic study was provided. Again, the properties that are on the west side of Marysville Road, again, this portion of the development is going to remain as a nature preserve. So that will help them. And I know that in this stand of trees, the PUD calls for this southernmost section to be reserved for a civic use, yet to be determined exactly what that will be. And then also a seniors living facility, most likely in this larger area. But both of those intended uses, the developer has said their goal is to preserve as much of the trees as they can, because the history of ownership of this property, they love their trees. And that's been a requirement of the development. So will some of these trees come down? Obviously, yes, because there's going to be development there. But the intent is to preserve as much of that as they can.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
I'm not aware of any other bocce ball courts in town, so that's exciting. The Lions Club was putting some in. Did I read that somewhere or hear that?
All right, anything else? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
I move that docket number 2024-26-DP, a development plan for a clubhouse and related amenities on 2.7 plus or minus acres within the Wild Air PUD be conditionally approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report and the staff recommendations, and subject to the items noted within the staff comment letter Exhibit 5.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion carries 6-0. He wasn't somewhere over that way yet. All right, so motion carries 6-0. Thanks.
My sympathies about the noise. I have friends who live there, and it's awful. When I go around that roundabout, I know the people on Sycamore Court are struggling, but there's not much that I think we can do about it.
Especially when they're not developed.
Yeah.
So. Those, do you have those docs that Chris needs to sign?
Which one, for 24?
Which one's that?
The variances and
The waivers?
the the waivers and the,
I can't sign this.
All right, so let the record show that Chris Lake has rejoined the commission. All right, next on the docket is 2024-27 DPA, St. Francis of the Fields Building Addition, 1525 Mulberry Street Development Plan Amendment for a building addition to the existing church in the Special Use 2 SU2 districts. Roger?
Thank you. As described, the petition before you is development plan amendment for a building addition and parking lot repaving to an existing church facility. The church is St. Francis in the Fields. I've got the site up on the screen for you. The subject site is outlined in black. And to the north of the site, first of all, it's bordered on the north by Mulberry Street, and across the street to the north is residential developments Mulberry Place and Colony Woods. Colony Square abuts the site on the east and also a portion of the south. Along the western edge of the site is the Zionsville Rail Trail, which then gets over to Ford Road and then eventually over to Mulberry Fields Park. This site is zoned SU2, which is primarily for churches or religious uses. And what is being proposed at St. Francis in the Field is a very small building addition, about a 1,200 square foot addition to their narthex. And it's really just, if you look on the screen, it is this small piece here that is being added. And it is somewhat, I hope this isn't degrading in any way, but it's kind of filling in a void of the existing building. The area that is being added, I've outlined here in red, that right now that is just an empty or an open space, and they're wanting to enclose it to, again, add space to their kind of greeting or welcome area. They are wanting to enclose that area, But then they are also adding some improvements to their exterior columbarium. They're adding some pathways and plantings and seating areas here. This is an enlargement of that same design. And then they're also going to be repaving the existing parking lot that has access or comes in off of Mulberry Street. The only item of interest is that a photometric plan has been submitted and reviewed by staff. Minor adjustments to the light intensity along the north property line are required as noted within the comment letter, which is Exhibit 5. One other item that was noted in the review is that some additional landscaping was needed to bring this up to the current standards of the ordinance, and the petitioner has agreed to do that. Landscaping plan has been presented and reviewed, and what is being proposed is compliant with the zoning ordinance. So staff does support a conditional approval of the submitted development plan amendment, subject to the items noted within the staff comment letter being satisfied prior to the issuance of any permits. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Petitioner present?
Thank you. Eddie Layton with Schmidt Associates, the project manager, and I have Alan Jacobson, the civil engineer on the project with me as well. If you have any civil questions, Roger summed it up very well. It is a very modest addition to their building to better support their community functions, and then enlarging of their columbarium, nice outdoor space, and repaving the existing parking lot mainly in a maintenance fashion that needs to be repaired. But thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Does anybody in the public like to comment on this matter? Anybody on the Plan Commission? Questions, comments for anybody? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
I move that docket number 2024-27-DPA, a development plan amendment for a building addition to the existing church on 12.14 plus or minus acres within the special use 2 SU2 district, be conditionally approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report and the staff recommendations, and subject to the items noted within the staff comment letter, Exhibit 5, being satisfied prior to the issuance of any permits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Next on the docket, 2024-29 DPA, Zionsville High School Locker Room Building Addition, 1000 Mulberry Street. Development plan amendment for a locker room building addition of approximately 10,500 square feet, being in the special use 1 SU1 district. Roger, Jody?
That's
Jody.
me.
All right.
We wanted to switch back and forth because, keep it fresh. So this is another development plan amendment. This is of the high school. You can see the location here off of Mulberry Street. And the particular building is right here in the middle of the property, close to the school, the stadium and track. The zoning is SU1, which is special use. Schools are in a permitted use in that district, and they use the business office standards for development. Here's the outline of the project. This is from the school's master plan, which they went through a master planning project and approval back in 2008. Most of these facilities were noted and outlined and approved, but the white building here was what was on the master plan. This expansion was not shown on the master plan, so that's why they're here for a development plan amendment to get that expansion, that building expansion approved. The building matches the existing building, and there's no Zionsville theme needed, waiver or anything needed here. So I will note that the staff report suggests a conditional approval because there was some landscaping that wasn't quite up to snuff, but I just didn't receive a no comment letter from BLN prior to the staff report going out. So I will tell you that all issues have been resolved, and so this can just be approved, no conditions.
Petitioner?
Good evening, Matt Doublestein, Director of Operations for the school district. Thank you to staff very much for working through this process with us. Indeed, we are hoping to expand the locker room. Presently, there is an old locker room that's used by our visitors and our off-season, so our non-football student athletes use quite an old building. We'd like to expand the existing building that's there at the stadium in order to facilitate year-round use and for our student athletes across all our sports. The original building was constructed around 2010, and we have grown in that time. We foresee the growth coming. We'd like to provide this space for our students as well as our guests moving forward. I had some pictures to show you, but they've covered everything. Absolutely happy to answer any questions and are grateful for you considering our petition this evening.
All right, thank you. Anybody from the public like to comment on this matter? Members of the Planning Commission,
I
questions,
have a
comments?
question. On Exhibit 4, where it says that it's Zionsville Upper Middle School, I'm sorry, as an alum and a former teacher, get that right.
Where does it say that? Forgive me. Terribly sorry, Mrs. Grabnow.
Mayor, are you asking that we consider?
You're never in class, did you?
No, I'm not at all. I'm not at all.
We were teachers in the district together, but and we do what Mary says.
Smart man.
So, Jody, question. We don't obviously have a full set of this here, but there are no stormwater concerns with all the additional pervious pavement taking up where there's currently grass? You guys are good with that?
You may need to repeat it while she
I'm
was
sorry,
going
I
out.
was, yeah.
We don't have looks like a full set of drawings here, but there are no issues from you guys with all the impervious surface being added where there's currently grass?
No, the drainage plan, there was a
Okay.
master drainage plan approved in 2008, and that was reviewed with this
Great.
additional.
Works for me, thank you.
All right, anything else? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
I move that docket number 2024-29-DPA, a development plan for a 10,500 square foot building addition in the special use SU1 District B, conditionally approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report and the staff recommendations, subject to resolution of outstanding review items identified by the comment letter.
All right, we don't need the conditional.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
Oh,
you,
that's right.
can you amend it to just be approved?
Yes, I will.
Okay, I'll second it
Approve it.
as approved.
Any further discussion, comments? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed by nay. That motion also carries.
Thank you very much.
Next on the docket is minor DPA. Roger, are you handling that?
Yes, sir. And it'll take me just a moment to call up those slides. Apologize. The town received an application for a small tool shed to be added down at Hoosier Village. Here's the overall site plan. This was submitted as a recent development plan approval for Hoosier Village. They're doing some construction of new units down on what would be the southeastern portion of their site. And as a part of that development, which was previously approved, they have a garden area and also a dog park here on the extreme southeastern corner. They simply wanted to add a tool shed for those uses. Staff reviewed through it, determined that this did not raise to the level of requiring a full-blown development plan amendment to be heard by the Planning Commission. Just needed a minor development plan, which is something that's approved by staff, and we are now required just to inform you we did approve this tool shed at that location. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, anybody have any questions?
No, but that looks like a really nice tool shed.
Yeah, that's an impressive tool shed.
My wife's not seeing these things.
And that's not it. Mike, you had a couple items?
I have two items. I sent you on Friday a draft of an ordinance zoning text amendment regarding the findings for development standards variance.
We didn't get it. I didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't get it either.
I was going to ask about it.
Well,
We don't have it.
well, the ordinance would change the finding for development standards variance from unnecessary hardship to practical difficulty. And the ordinance includes a definition for practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship, and change the text for that finding to state that the strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in a practical difficulty, and we struck out an unnecessary hardship. So that's really the basics of the ordinance.
Do you have the definition that you have for practical hardship?
Unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty?
Sorry, practical difficulty.
Means that significant economic injury will result from the strict application of the zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance, or other land use ordinances. The injury cannot be self-created, and there cannot be any feasible alternatives to a requested variance. This standard is less stringent than unnecessary hardship. This language is recommended by Dan Taylor.
It's a lower bar to jump over for variances.
Doesn't sound like it.
It is.
Other than adding the economic side, but it still can't be self-created, so
It can't be self-created, but
do much.
yeah.
Because the ones we've had struggle with are ones that are self-created. Like we had one where somebody could tear down the front historic porch on their house to be able to get an extra 100 square foot on their back porch.
When you compare the definition for unnecessary hardship, that states that taken together, the property cannot be put to conforming use. Just means impossible to put to conforming use.
And yeah, unnecessary hardship is very, if you follow the case law definitions of it, it's extremely difficult to prove.
So I don't know why I didn't reach you. I could send it again if you want to put it off, or we could schedule it for a hearing if you feel comfortable with it for next month.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
We can do it next month.
Send it again. I want to
Okay.
absorb it a little bit.
Send it
more.
again.
Sounds like it might be able to be something we can get done in a couple minutes.
Right. Okay, and then Roger, it's up there. Thank you. On your screen, is that image 1?
No.
I think I have them numbered, images 1 through 6 or so.
That's image 4.
Okay.
There's image 4.
The other tab.
There you go. Okay. So there are really two properties here located on the west side of Michigan Road, 2 parcels totaling about 1.3 acres. The owner of the northern parcel is operating has an office use there. And he has sought to apply for a sign permit. But because of the residential zoning, we cannot give him a sign for his existing business. The southern property also has residential zoning. What I'm presenting to you this evening is a decision whether you feel, based on the current use of the property, whether the town should initiate a rezoning of the site. If you go to image number 2, we zoom in. That's not it. Could you image number 2, and could you? There we go. Thank you, Roger. As a closer view of the site, it shows you the zoning. It's a little difficult to see from this distance, but the properties that I have outlined there have residential or urban residential SF2 zoning. The properties to the north and south, as Roger is showing you, have business or urban business B1 zoning. To the east side of Michigan, there is B1 zoning, BO zoning. There is B1 zoning, the green patch just to the south of that where Roger's showing you, and then more residential zoning. So the fact that these 2 parcels have residential zoning are not in keeping with the business B1 zoning along Michigan Road and with the business zoning located across the street. If you go to image number 3, Roger, this is just a little bit clearer view of the zoning map. Those 2 parcels I've shown there have that pink-rich red RSF2 zoning. And again, to the north and south of those 2 parcels there is business B1 zoning, and across the street, BO, B1 to the north, B1 to the south, and residential RSF2 zoning. Next slide, image 4, please. Thank you, Roger. That part, you can't read the text at all at this zoom level. The northern property is about 0.8 or 0.86 acres. The southern parcel is about 0.4 of an acre. Offices and professional services are listed as a permitted use in B1, but not under the current residential RSF2 zoning. So what we have is a legally established, we presume a legally established non-conforming use with that residential zoning. Again, we cannot give them a sign permit because of the current zoning. Next slide, image number 5. Thank you, Roger. Gentech is the owner of the property to the north. The 11818 Property Group owns the parcel to the south. The owners have provided consent letters, so if the Plan Commission were willing to initiate a rezoning on their behalf, they would be not only not object, but they'd be appreciative of that. And then the last slide, image number 6. Thank you, Roger. Just an aerial view of the property. I don't know if you can zoom in, go back to, you had a better zoomed in image. Yeah, just stick with that one. You can see that the northern side, again, is developed with an office building called Gentech. The southern tract is undeveloped, both of which have residential zoning, both bordered to, either to the north or south with business B1 zoning. So it's your call if you feel that you want to initiate this rezoning on behalf of the property owner. I think that it's an anomaly. It's probably something the town overlooked somehow in the past.
I think that needs to happen.
Okay.
Should make it a PUD.
I mean, it's in the urban area of Eagle Village, so, yeah.
Okay.
And that, he wants a sign, and without that, he can't get a sign.
Right, and it's an established business there for quite a while.
Let's do it.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and do that. We'll advertise it for a hearing.
Okay.
Okay, and that's all I have for you.
Anything else?
No other updates on the rules of procedure or the current zoning ordinances, just the one we briefly discussed.
Coming.
Coming.
Yes, they're coming.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Thank you.